Powerful marathon, guys. Good afternoon. Mike D, recovered heroin addict. Glad to be here. Um, I just love the way spirit interacts with thinking and giving you what you need in the precise moment. I heard the gentleman talking to Elvira about the fellowship not being somewhere. And I was in the process of thumbing through my books in my library. And I picked out a book, and when I opened it, it turned to this page. And I'd like to read it um, because somebody's in a delusion as to why we do this. Why do we do what? Allow the 12 steps to work us so that we get a message that we convey to sick and dying people to bring them into the fold. So I turned to page 138 in a book called The Wisdom of Florence Scovel Shinn. And the writing is entitled Sales. A woman who lived in a country town wished to sell her house and furniture. It was in the winter with snow so deep it was almost impossible for cars or wagons to reach her door. As she asked God to sell her furniture, listen, to the right person for the right price, she was unmindful of appearances. She polished the furniture, pushed it into the middle of the room, and prepared to sell it. She said, I never looked out the window at the blizzard. I simply trusted God's promises. In miraculous ways, people drove up, and all the furniture was sold, and the house also, without paying any commission to an agent. Faith never looks out of the window at the blizzard. It simply prepares for the blessing asked for. That young man that wanted Cocaine Anonymous started in that little section of the world, wherever you at, I forget, start a meeting. Hook up with somebody on this Mad Dogs line and start a meeting. You be the door that somebody needs to walk through. Affirmation. I give thanks that this article is not sold to the right person or persons for the right price, giving perfect satisfaction. There is no competition on the spiritual plane. What is mine is given me under grace. I am identified in love with the spirit of this person. God protects my interests, and the divine idea now comes out of this situation. So that gentleman, you spoke something and you put it into existence. You put it in the universe. Now you need to claim it and move forward on it. God is giving you the vision as to how to be an agent and a helper for Him. Because down here on this plane, we need each other. Don't get it twisted. I'm not going to get all that spiritual where I don't need you guys. I am so thankful for Mad Dog. I'm so thankful for the individuals that have traveled this path with me for some 38 years now. I'm so thankful that was what was offered to me in the very beginning had depth and weight and held my attention like heron did. I am so thankful that he put in front of me teachers that were properly armed with facts about themselves that could pass on what we do here in a knowingness that what they were passing on was the next right thing to do. I'm so grateful that God is. And as long as I'm in this physical encasement, he continues to reveal himself and move me along the lines that he wants me to move, not me. Good to be here. We've had some powerful shares this morning. I've been here all day long. Well, I've been here because this is what I do now. And I've been here because you guys are my family. My family has stretched all around the world. And you see, we've stayed in a certain perimeter of numbers throughout this marathon. I don't think we broached 50 people. But what's meant by that is that whoever was to be here was here. That whoever was here, it was meant for you to hear a message that on some level it impacted your life. And it brought you to a place of thinking and hopefully of wanting to create movement in doing what your life, what you have been kept alive to do. And you can only make that determination. I can only pass words on to you. I have my own experience. You have to have your own experience. But a number of you on here this afternoon, I know you personally. We've done work. We've walked the path. Some for a few years, some for many years, some for months. But you're sticking because you've heard something. You've heard something that caught your attention. Then somebody told you, take a taste and see. And you tasted what we do, and you liked what you tasted. So in that, you knew there had to be more than what was being talked about here. That more is an internal transformation. That I more and more rely on me less and depend on God more. We don't get it perfect. We don't get it perfect. But more and more, I have experiences with me that convince me. Step 3 says I must be convinced that any life run on spirit, run on self-will can hardly be a success. I must be convinced. That takes time for us mad dogs, for us real ones. And we'll walk around in a delusion that everything is all right and I got life by its ass and I'm okay and I'm in acceptance of the moment, and in the moment I am totally twisted and I ain't telling nobody. And I create my own suffering. So if I create my own suffering, yeah, spirit, yeah. I create my own suffering, yeah. To uncreate it, I have to be given the power to do that. And the power is given to me because the power is infused in me from God Almighty into my mind to do the next right thing. So I might not do it immediately, but he's going to keep doing that. Why? Because you asked him. Those of you that have done the work and hopefully have completed the work, in step 3, you made a decision to turn your life and your will over to the care of God. That means there is no longer a you. What you think and what you feel does not really matter unless it's anchored in and centered around the God of your own understanding. And hopefully that understanding of God is something that's awesome and magnificent. Ain't no poop but God. I don't need a poop but God in my life. I don't need a God that's not capable of doing anything that needs to be done that's not in alignment of me being who I am, which is his heir and his son. I don't need a God like that. So what happens for some of us, when we get here, we start a journey in becoming armored to withstand whatever comes down the pipe, because it's coming. Because it's coming. Jose kicked us off with a magnificent, powerful share this morning. SJ, thank you so much for your share. We need you back in action with Mad Dogs. We need you showing up like you used to. I know life happens. I know things come down the pipe that want to take us off course, but you can always return to center. Belgium, Matt, powerful share. Keep doing what you're doing up there in Belgium. Keep carrying the message. Keep standing for something and not willing to fall for anything. Whether they like you or not, stand. And then Elvira, we need to get some fire up under Portugal. Because it sounds like it's only you and Pedro was on here. I don't know if Pedro's still on here. Yeah, there you go. Sounds like it's only you and Pedro in Portugal. I've been to Portugal, not making me anybody, because it ain't about me, but a couple times, and I've done a couple of retreats in Portugal. We need to put our heads together, get a thinking tank together, how we can put a fire up under Portugal, because it's there. The spark is there. The fire just needs to be lit. So my prayer that moving into 2026, and I shared with you guys at the beginning of the year that my motto, my mantra for 2025 is, in 2025, I'm alive and God is up to something. Well, he's definitely been up to something in my life. Definitely. He's changed a bunch of stuff. He's opened up new chapters in my life. And that's what needs to be happening in an individual's life that say they are recovered. It means you've recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. It means you get power back to make the next right decision. You get to tune in and pull off what God gives you as direction and knowingness as to who you are and what your mission and your purpose or assignment is. So I'll go as far as to say that's Mike D stuff. That's Mike D stuff. You don't have to have my story and my journey, but hopefully you got one, especially if you say you're a real one, that you've tapped into. And even when you get pushed off course or you willingly turn off course, the awakening comes as to you being off course and you right about face and come back to center. Why? Because your life depends upon it. My life depends on me staying anchored in God. My life depends upon that knowingness that's arrived in my life for a number of years now, that God is for real. He ain't no play thing. He ain't no sometimey thing. He ain't no what if thing. He is. And that he's capable of doing whatever needs to be done in my life, designed around my needs and not my wants. Such a wise, lack of a better word, man. Such a wise consciousness, the creator of all, the maker of all things to this very moment. You're not here on this marathon by accident. You're here with reason and purpose. It might be to abandon some of those old ideas that you have that's been holding you hostage for God knows how long. I mean, really abandon. Let go of the idea that you need a woman in your life or you need a man in your life in order to live, that you ain't whole, that you need a certain amount of money in the bank in order for you to be okay. That if you don't have a car, you don't have a hoopty, something's wrong with you. That if you're sleeping on somebody's couch, that ain't supposed to be happening for you. If you're sleeping on the couch, it's supposed to be happening for you right there in that moment. If somebody doesn't love you, they ain't supposed to love you right now. Hard pills to swallow. Do you love you? That's the key. What lengths are you willing to go to for you? Have you abandoned the idea that people serve you or you serve people? There's a whole gamut of thought and understanding and knowledge that comes into being a recovered person that needs to be applied in an individual's life. And somewhere along the path, if you just kept coming back, you've made a decision that you're going to stay. And you're willing to embrace that stuff that's not readily talked about in meetings on a daily basis. There's a lot of stuff people don't talk about in meetings that need to be talked about. Somebody on this meeting this afternoon, you're in a deep depression about something. It's got you hostage. It's smothering you, killing you. But as you look at us on the outside, you look fine. But on the inside, you're dying. Because you're spiritually separated from the power that can renew your life, renew your thinking, and renew your understanding. It's like my other puppy. He's 1 year old, and I put him outside, and he's constantly scratching at the door to get in because he wants to be in the mix of things, right? Somebody on this meeting, you're scratching at the door, but you don't have the power to open the door because you need God to open that door for you. You have not surrendered totally. And I don't want to say to the best of your ability. I remember I said that to Joe one time. We were on the end of step 9, and it says something about to the best of your ability, working these promises or something. And he said, doing stuff to the best of your ability gets you loaded. You need to trust in God and turn your life and your will over totally to the care of God. There is no you anymore. And that's what's happened for me. I can't make this stuff up, man. If this wasn't real stuff, I wouldn't still be here. Heroin was very real in my life. Heroin transformed me at the age of 16. The first time I tasted it, I took a one-on-one of it. It changed my life for damn near 30 years. And then into recovery and being clean and not using, heroin still had an effect on me in my thinking. Because with it came the lie that if this was that way, or if you were that way, or if things were in a certain order, you'll be okay, Mike. And I bought the lie. I bought the lie for years. I grew up with the idea that having one on my arm or 2 or 3 in the trunk was quite okay. Because if the one on my arm failed me, I could always go and take one of them out of the trunk and hook up with them. It was a way of life for me. The idea that if I had a certain amount of money, I'd be okay. I watched the dope men. I watched the pimps. I watched the hustlers. I watched the Cadillacs. I watched the Mercedes, the Lincolns, the gator shoes, the silk pants, the diamonds, the gold, the drinking top shelf stuff in bars, hanging out. I watched that. That caught my attention and it held my attention. There's something in the rooms of recovery and in that big blue book that we have. Has it got your attention? And it speaks to you when you pick it up and lets you know that whatever's going on in your life, it don't have to stay that way. It's only that way because you let it remain in that place in your life. You've created your circumstances. Ain't nobody did it to you. Some of y'all are just like me. You got book sense and then you got concrete and pavement sense. You know how to hold your own in the street, man. Why not ask God to reverse that thinking? Why not ask God to bring that understanding of how to hold yourself and sustain yourself in certain areas that do not sustain you anymore, to recreate that for you? Give you the power to recreate your life. Book tells me I get the power to recreate my life, meaning God ain't stepping down here and tapping you on the shoulder with no magic wand. And ain't nobody in the room's gonna sprinkle no fairy dust on you and poof. There's some work to be done on your part. My textbook, Faith Without Works is Dead. Faith without works is dead. Is there an area in your life where you do not truly believe God can recreate that for you? So you live in fear. You live in fear that God doesn't have the master plan for you. So you're agnostic temperament because you probably believe there's a God, but you don't totally put your faith and your reliance in him. Your master plan for that is that there's something I can do to fix it. And if you're like me, you probably had experiences over and over and over in trying to fix it, and it still ain't fixed. You're still grappling with it, and you're still trying to think of ways on how to conquer it, and you haven't conquered it yet because the conquering is not your job. Your job is to surrender and be taken to whatever level you need to be taken to, that you see God in the solution and embrace that as the solution. My deal today is just be an agent, be an instrument. Let God use you, Mike, however he wants to use you. Be a closed mouth friend. Be a listener. Be a giver. Follow your intuition as to what it is you need to do and what it is you don't need to do, as orchestrated by God. I dare you. You'll look up and you'll have a life that's unexplainable. I can't explain this. I can't explain this. The only way I can explain it is that God is. He had a plan for me long before I could even spell the word plan. Some of you guys have heard some of these cliche deals that I use that are Mike D stuff. But he before I could spell the word plan, he had a plan for me. And you know what he's done? He showed me that he had a plan for me. I was not nurtured and groomed in that little church for the first 10 years of my life for nothing. Somebody in here on this meeting this afternoon, you have a calling on your life. God has kept you alive for very specific reasons for you to find out. And what happened for me, my finding out came as a result of my surrender on another level. Consistent surrenders. That's why you do the work time and time and time again, because it's a surrender. Those of you that make it to step 10, you see yourself surface in step 10. What that says to me, the red flag is up, you awake, Mike. You awake. You know what happens when you wake up, right? Ain't no different now than it was before. I might be a little bit calmer, right? But if I wake up in that area of my life, it lets me know that there's still work to be done. I'm still looking at an area in my life with Mr. C that has been in my recovery the majority of my recovery. And it's not as blatant and it's not as glaring as it's been. And I don't act out on it anymore. I don't act out on it anymore. But on a certain level, it's still there. But Mr. C has taught me how to talk to myself and talk to that part of me and talk to God about it. And I've gotten results because I don't do with it what I've done with it before. So I'm grateful that we have what we have in the rooms of recovery. And what we have is a recovery process. Because if you're a real alcoholic and a real addict, at some particular time in this journey, there's a part of you that's going to surface that hasn't surfaced before. But if it has surfaced before, the amount of work that you needed to do or the amount of time you needed to allow it to work you haven't given that to that area and you haven't truly surrendered. I never dreamt I'd be 38 years without shooting heroin. I love heroin. I love it still. I love it more today because look where it brought me to. It was an avenue to bring me back to God. It was an avenue to put me on a path back to my creation. It was an avenue to begin to cultivate that love affair that I did have at one time in my life, and I abandoned it because other things looked more prosperous and more inviting and more fruitful than hanging out with him. Today, I hang out with him first and primary. Today, I'm of service to others more than I'm of service to me. Today, I get the ability to turn and to pause and make the next right decision instead of acting on what it is I think I know. That's why Mad Dogs is so important, man. We get so many individuals that we run up on, and they get so many ideas about recovery. When you got a lot of stuff going on in your mind, you get confused. Set aside prayer. Set aside prayer was never a prayer. No, don't say that, Mike. It was a prayer for somebody, but it wasn't a prayer that was given out in the very beginning of this lineage. It was the lay aside prayer. People don't know that though. Asking God to help me lay aside everything I think I know. If I could lay aside what I thought about me, I would have did that around the age of 17, 18, because I knew something was wrong with the life I was living. That's why I started doing detoxes and and methadone and methadone maintenance and geographics, because I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what. So if I could have changed me, I would have changed me. That's why we go to God and ask God to please lay aside everything I think I know. That was a result of Don Pritz saying to Joe Hawk, "You dangerous. You fucking dangerous. You know too much. Go create a prayer asking God to lay aside what you know. You're going to kill somebody." That's where that prayer came from. It's been handed down over the years, and it's very powerful. It's not to be given out frivolously as something to pray. It's to be used in starting a piece of work. A lot of times with new individuals that come to us, and then at other times with individuals that have been around us for a while, they've done some work, but their ego has grown to a point that they know something and they're killing people. God gives some of us spiritual insight to others. You don't always have to talk about it either. You can just let it be and let them have the experience and leave it up to God to bring them around. Because He will. It'll be on them whether they listen or not. I sit and I listen. I sit and I listen. And a lot of times I don't say anything. I go to a meeting and I go to a marathon and it's like, did you share? No. They didn't call you? No. What? No. And they don't have to call me. I don't have to share. And it's not because I'm doing this for so long, but just the presence of recovery, just your showing up. Those meetings, Elvira, in Portugal, keep showing up. Keep carrying your message. Somebody's going to walk up to you one day, if they haven't already, and ask you, what is it that you doing? They not talking about this over in here. They not talking what you talking in here. Same thing in Amsterdam. Same thing in Spain. All through the UK. Somebody's going to want to know, what is it that you do? Why are you so different than all the rest of them that's talking about what it was like, what it was like, what it was like? Where does your message come from? What's impacted your life that you take such a stern stand on the big book and the process of recovery outlined in the book? What happened to you? Then you get a chance to speak God to them. God happened to me. God showed up when I really needed him to show up, when I had really gotten to a point where I was willing to surrender. That was in that last treatment program in 1987, where Heron showed up. One morning I was laying in bed. I woke up and Heron showed up. Some of y'all know me. I'm a firm believer in spirit, good spirits and evil spirits, demonic spirits. Heron is a demonic spirit. Showed up and said, so now that you don't have me, what you gonna do? Just as plain as day. And I didn't know, but it only took a short while for me to find out what the next step was. And that was something that I had never heard before. Didn't know nothing about 12-step fellowships. Didn't know nothing about AA, CA, NA. Nothing. Didn't know there was a process of recovery. Didn't know I needed a sponsor that was properly armed with facts about themselves, that they could lead me down a path as outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that if I did that, there would be a transformation in my life that would be unbelievable. Didn't know none of that. I was dying in 1987. I just didn't want to go to jail, penitentiary. So I ran into a program. Jail and programs have been my safe haven for years. And something happened. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And in that treatment program, the teacher showed up and said, there's a level of surrender you must embrace. And those panels and those speakers gave me new hope and new vision that no, you don't have to die doping, Mike. You don't have to die with a spike in your arm or a spike in your neck or a spike in your finger or in your ankles or all the places that I use to traumatize this physical body. You don't have to die like that. You can live. And I embraced that idea. And as I moved along that journey, that first piece of work, getting to the ninth step, what was my measure of freedom that I never knew was possible for me. Meaning I had stopped and I stayed stopped. And the promise of the obsession will be removed was granted me by God. I didn't know it was God. Alton had to tell me, oh, you didn't pick up when you went back home on that amends trip because God stopped you from picking up. You ain't had nothing to do with that. Because I had a little smirk and a grin on my face, you know. I didn't use. They offered me reefer and alcohol and cocaine, and I didn't use at all. And he had to remind me or either make it crystal clear that I had nothing to do with the obsession being removed. That doing the work was proclaiming to God, here I am, have me. I'm willing to do these steps to show you that I want the recreation that's been given to me as outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm willing to move through 1 through 9 to fit myself to be of maximum service to you and the people about me. As I moved through each piece of work, I became more aligned with the promises and the principles of each one of them and why we do this. I don't do this because of me. I don't do this because of what I want. I do this to say thank you, Father, for saving my life, man. I was a dead man at 42. Dead man. But he so saw fit to keep me alive, and he's moved my life to a level that's unbelievable. 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 So anybody that's new on here this afternoon, you run into a group of people, and I'm looking at them, and all of them just about is the Mad Dog's family that have brought into an idea that was sold to them. We're salesmen, that they could live life differently. that drinking and using did not have to be an option in their life anymore. They brought into the idea and became willing to do whatever they needed to do in order to stay stopped. They have embraced this way of living. They have taken it on as armor and a mantle to walk through life. And none of us do it perfectly. If you like me, you have your days. I don't want to work with people. I don't want them calling me. I don't want to drive to LA for my other fellowship. Ain't about what I want no more. It's about what I need in order to sustain that personal relationship that I have with that God that I love so much. Because he literally, and the language in the book, he literally snatched me back from the gates of insanity and death and put me on a new footing. So anybody that's new to Mad Dogs, welcome. Anybody that's seeking a new way of life, we got a textbook that will lead you there. We got some qualified teachers, instructors, sponsors, whatever you want to call them, that are properly armed with facts about themselves. Even if you've been around us for a while and you know it's time to do something else, to move to another level, we got somebody here that will help you. Reach out. Reach out, corner them, and tell them very simply, I need help. Will you help me? Watch what happens to your life. I want to thank you guys for being here for me, for my recovery today. This is not a one-way street. This ain't about sponsors helping sponsees. This is also about sponsees helping sponsors. There's another big book that says, out of the mouth of babes, you'll hear stuff shared in meetings that will hit you at the core as to where you at or what it is that you need. But then God is going to leave it up to you what you do with it. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Richie. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Daniel. All y'all's on the Mad Dogs committee that be putting this together, that have put the retreat together in March. I didn't hear you guys mention nothing about Sheffield. I guess they haven't put nothing together yet, but if they don't, I'll just come for Kent and that's it. I'm going to Spain after Kent, then I'll come back to the UK and hang out with y'all. SJ, thank you. We need you back in the middle of the herd. We need you. The women on this group need you. God bless you. God keep you. Elvira, we'll talk soon. I love each and every one of you separately. Each of you have special meaning in my life, but collectively, as a family, I love you so much. Because biologically, the majority of my family is gone. But God has strategically placed people in my life in those slots. Most stay on the front line. You see who he brought today. He brought a guy from Nigeria. Get in touch with him. Get in touch with him. See what you can do with him. Be a seeker. Somebody shared it the other night in a meeting I was at. They talked about going fishing. Go fishing. That's a Mike D thing. Go fishing. Find somebody you can help. Watch what God does to your life as a result of you helping somebody else. That's enough out of me. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.